And this would be around the time where Byrne was joining the book. So we're going to get to see if at this point
the Byrne bump. Call it what it is, the Byrne bump.
Oh my goodness. I needed that one.
Hold on once. Hey, welcome everybody to the Spinner Rack. Once again, always great to see you guys. I hope you guys are staying safe and sound. Today, I'm here with my man, PD, and we are discussing PD.
Well, ultimately, we want to talk about X-Men and the success of the X-Men. We did one video about how we believe that the Brood saga possibly pushed the X-Men over the top. It could also have been Paul Smith, who took over the X-Men from Dave Cockrum. But ultimately, there's a way to check, because in the past, obviously, the X-Men was a cult title that was put on hiatus back in, I think, about in the late 60s, where I think Neil Adams had done a run. It was on its last legs, but the numbers started to tick up. So they decided to make it a reprint book and have it be bi-monthly, meaning 6 times a year. So at some point, Roy Thomas, who had written the X-Men, said, let's revive them and let's do a mutant Blackhawks, or Blackhawks with Blackhawk characters were multiracial. They wanted to do a multiracial X-Men mutant book from all around the world. So they put together a new X-Men. The giant size X-Men had a decent enough sales for them to continue it in the series. But by the time they switched over to John Byrne, Terry Austin said he was in the office, and Archie Goodwin said, hey, would you want to ink the X-Men? And he thought, I'm going to get John on it. And if we get John says yes, then it'll go monthly. So he was like, yeah. And then he asked John Byrne, who what's up?
Yeah, so the characters that were in this revamped X-Men, just the main characters. Just
well, what are we talking about? I mean, we can't really go into that. Cyclops stayed. Then you have Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler. There's also Banshee who's in it. Sunfire shows up, but he doesn't stay long, and then Thunderbird. And then ultimately you would pare it down to ultimately, like, I think the Phoenix was in there for a while. It'd be rich between 6 and 7 X-Men, closer to 6 X-Men from time to time. But the book was very exciting with Chris Claremont on it. But ultimately, it was still 6 times a year. And that's ultimately why, though they said, Terry Austin said that when Archie came to him, the editor-in-chief of Marvel at the time said they're going to cancel the X-Men. But I can get it to go monthly, and you and John do it, maybe it could last. So they got Byrne on it. It went monthly soon after, maybe his 4th, 5th issue. And then the buzz started happening. And then I think John Byrne says it was still teetering between cancellation, but the big issue sales were for the Death of Phoenix. That was a big issue for them. So many people say, the book was so exciting, it was selling before that. It's always been a success. And this is a thing that's been kind of saying that Byrne's work doesn't sell anymore, because they look at the price of the X-Men comic books and back issues and say, these books always sold. So it's kind of looking at the back issue market and saying that the resale value on those books equates the sale value of the current books. So it's been kind of, you have a question.
Huh? You're saying that's false. That's what you're saying.
I'm going along the lines of what Byrne was saying. Since he was drawing the book, he would, and ultimately the X-Men was a smaller book. It wasn't a big book when it started. It was probably the most exciting book at the time. I think, what else did you have that was big? I guess you can say the Avengers was big. And
Defenders?
Huh?
Defenders?
Yeah, Defenders might. I'm not sure what the Defenders sales were, but ultimately the X-Men in the direct sales market, in the comic stores, it might have started to become a big book for them. But as far as total sales, it was still taking a while. But there's a big jump as far as readership but everyone feels that it was always selling. So we're going to go through something called statement of ownership, right? So let's use what we would consider a popular book, as in the Avenger.
What's the statement of ownership?
This basically tells you the distribution of these titles, how many titles are out there, and here we go. So we have a postal service, statement of ownership, management, and circulation. This is basic circulation for the comic books themselves, right? So now you're going to see this is pulled from actual comic books, my scans from Gitcore, and this has the Avengers from 1979. Basically the 12 months, and then the total amount of books published for this sale. Now remember, you have to sell more than half of your circulation. So if we go down here, you have the number of printed copies for each issue, and that's almost 30,000 single issues, right? We're in agreement? You there?
I'm right here. I'm listening to you.
Okay, cool. So then, if we go there, we have, let's keep going down. We have these two numbers here. And then, let's see. Here we go down to the total distribution, which is at E. And that's at 230,000.
Could you bring it up a little bit more?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So right here in the middle at E, we have that, and it's clearly more than half of his print run. So that, I guess, would be a decent selling book for the time. Now, mind you, the X-Men, when it was rolling, it was selling like 450,000 each issue, right? So that was what was being sold, right? So we keep that in mind because we're going to see that later. So we go to SpiderMan, right? This is 1980, the next year, right? So we go down to now this is even larger now. Look at the amount of books they have for that, 600,000, right?
That says total number of copies printed, net press run. Average number of copies each issue during the preceding 12 months is 600,000. Single issue nearest to filing date 583. But if we go down to the same thing you were looking at, total paid circulation, that says 296,000 in 12 months. That's C, and 270. So you're comparing that number that was on A, but the C number is the one I think you need to look at.
You want to say that C is the number that you want to look at?
No, I'm just saying if you want the comparable number in the last one is C, I think. That's what I'm saying.
Going for the E because it says the total distribution. I get what you're doing. We could say that it's not too far off because we go to what you're saying in C, that's 296,000, and then this one is 297,000. So it's not too far off. It's in the hundreds, maybe 1,000 difference, right? So if we want to stay there, we can do that. We can do this, go back to the Avengers and say that if you feel that. But it's basically we're keeping the range. Now this there was some sort of jump in the preceding months, but if we go by this number and the issues nearest the filing date, it's still pretty much over its print run, right? Or close to it. But the amount, this higher amount they're printing out for it means Spider-Man is a decent selling book. It's selling more than the Avengers, right? Because we just had, we're not comic book officials, so that's why I'm cool with however you feel is also with this thing. So we can go by C. And then now we have the Hulk, and this is from 1979, possibly when the TV show was out. And this one's a little bit low as far as its print run of 509,000 single issues. And if we go to, we got A, B, we don't have a C here. So we'll go into E for this one. And this would be over. It's more than double. It's 277,000 single issues. So then that's more than double. So you're seeing how subscriptions go. We're using which would be the most successful titles right around the time the X-Men started getting hot, right? And since we're here, so what do you think about this so far? I don't want to just keep rolling. What do you got to say about this so far?
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. Trying to get the historical understanding of what comics were selling at the time. I mean, this is one of the way, like you said before, that comic people would fans would look and see how many comics were being sold. There was no Comic-Con. There was no Diamond who was distributing information. You had to actually look at this because this was, I think, a federally mandated thing if you were using mail by the comic book company. So yeah, it was. I don't know. I think I read something where some of them usually was useful generally, but sometimes some numbers were a little weird or off, or the statistical issues. So yeah, I think it's definitely a good, interesting thing because now we get to see what the numbers were in the past because people talk a bunch of cruts about what things were going good and what things weren't going good. Yeah. Sorry for my French. I didn't want to, hope that the YouTube censors don't go through that. All right. Yeah,
that's the worst you can go. All right, that's fine. So
I'm in New York. You know how we can go. All right.
Oh my goodness. So we're gonna go to. No, that's not all right. See, every time I look for stuff, I'm seeing the old one up there. But we got Iron Man. Now, obviously, we know Iron Man now is the biggest thing out, right? Let's look at Iron Man from 1980 when the X-Men started rolling. Now that print run, 350,000, is a lot lower, but it looks like it was ticking up the filing date. It's 375,000. And then we look at the amount of single issues. It's starting to pick up, but it's a lot lower than the Avengers, Spider-Man, and the Hulk, right? Because we have here, it's kind of muddy. This could be, I'm feeling it's 168, but it could be 188,000. And this is.
Why do you think so low? I mean,
it could be. Maybe you're right. I'm just saying it's kind of muddy here.
Oh, in terms of what the numbers you're watching right now?
Yeah, C.
Oh, okay. Yes, 188.90.
Yeah, okay. I'll say let's go for that. And then it's at almost like 200,000. So this is, compared to the other books, this is lower than the Avengers and a lot lower than the Hulk, but it's ticking up. Seems up the filing date, it's kind of ticking up. So we got.
We knew this.
Huh?
We knew this in terms of Iron Man. He wasn't exactly the number one, the biggest selling comic there was. I mean, that you could see, but if you could just talk to the kids you were dealing with, like, yo, what title you got, man? You ain't got this, bro. No, I got that.
But you have all of the classic storylines that Bob Layton and David Michelini, the Demon in the Bottle, some of the classic Hulk versus Iron Man. They had a run that's remembered favorably, but at the same time, it was still a second-tier title, as you were saying. We have to go to the title that started everything, the Fantastic Four. We had to go to them. What was I thinking? But this is more than Iron Man. We got 463,000, and then we have, and this is also selling over its print run, which would be like was it 268? I'm going 268,000. This one 279,000 here up the filing date. So it's ticking up a little bit. So let's quickly go right back.
But you see how it's doing against Iron Man, like you said before, versus Spider-Man and stuff like that. It's doing well number-wise. Not necessarily the overall print run, but in terms of paid circulation, it's not a bad. It's doing a decent number.
Yep.
Now we can tell what Marvel is doing, like 250 a year for this one, 180 a year for that one. 229 for another one. Yeah, that's interesting. Avengers, wow.
So the Avengers are a little bit lower than that one. Okay, so it's good to keep in mind that.
I'm very surprised, but to tell you the truth, I did not think the Avengers were holding up that strongly in 1979.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. It's like looking at it, Fantastic Four has been kind of eclipsed by the Hulk and Spider-Man. but it's doing a little bit better than the Avengers. So it's still it's a flagship title, but obviously Spider-Man is considered that, and I think the Avengers is they're kind of thinking, I guess with Shooter at some point, as was he also wrote it, people are feeling that it's the main title, but now we got to get to the big leagues, and that one we're going to go through year by year. And we're going to go to the X-Men.
I thought we were in the big leagues.
No, I mean, obviously everyone wants to know what the X-Men numbers are. So we've seen that the big leagues are the Hulk and the Spider-Man, then the Hulk, Fantastic Four, then the Avengers, and then we don't have the Defenders to go to, but we know it's kind of not as big as these other titles.
I thought it would have been bigger than Avengers, man, back then.
What book?
Always say the Avengers were bigger than the Avengers in the 70s.
Well, I mean, Fantastic Four was still holding its ground, but I mean, obviously it seems like they wanted it to be bigger because they knew it was the #1 title that they had.
Oh, wow, you went back further, 1969 this time.
Well, we want to see, this is going to be a true testament because, like, when we look at this way back when it got canceled, we also have to say that why was it canceled? So we can see that difference. Because every time we've looked at the C numbers and the E numbers, you double it, it's more than the print run, right? So this way we get to see what happens when the title is close to being canceled. And at the same time, we can compare it to the sales of today, and then we could be in total shock to be like, how did they cancel this? But so we have obviously the X-Men from 1969. We have Martin Goodman, the original publisher, and Stan Lee, the editor, and Sal Brodsky, who's not with us. All of them are not with us anymore. But here we go. So look at that. We have, as far as we got 400,000 for that is what, that's a little bit, that's above, what's that, above, I can't remember if it was above Iron Man. If we look at that and we look at the C numbers, the average before was over the print run, but then when we see the nearest to date, it's below it. Not by much, but it's definitely below it.
That's weird.
So that's one of the things where you're seeing, is it dropping at this point? And this is why they kind of decided to put it on hiatus. So,
but I just want to call out something. Look at F, PD. What does it say? Yeah. Office used
leftovers uncounted. Oh.
4 copies each issue during preceding 12 months. So you have 169,000, and it goes up to 170 by filing date. You know, so the runs are very big. So the run, if you have A as the correct, you know, you have 176 comics that are just like, you know, what the hell? Not counting, but
this is, you know, this is what puts, you know, this is a book that was either close to cancellation or just enough to keep it alive. And that's what they did. They put it into reprints at that time. So we got to go to the X-Men from 1975. This is when they started over. And of course, you know, Stan Lee is publisher, Marv Wolfman was the head editor, and John Verpoorten is the managing editor. So look at these numbers. 263,000 for their total number of copies printed. And then we go to C number, it's well below. They're almost 120,000. So that's not a great start for them. So then that's 75. So let's see what it did in 76.
Yeah, not drastic from what I can see.
76. And then we go, okay,
you gotta pick it up.
It's picking up. It's like there, but it's like before that it wasn't doing, it got the numbers before that. It's 250,000. And then, but up to the date, it's looking like it's doing better this year. But this amount of books is well lower than what we saw on the other books. But it's, that means this only
Well, I mean,
we
how are you taking that? How are you interpreting that data? People are not interested in a new change, or what?
I don't. That's the hard thing, and that's the thing that Archie Goodwin and Byrne was saying, is that it just needed to go monthly, because a book that was out 6 times a year is a hard time for it to catch with the fans. So we'll start to see these numbers tick up as the books start to sell. But I think the hardest thing is, because I think Byrne was on Iron Fist, and that was 8 times a year. And that was close to cancellation, but the numbers started ticking up and they decided to put Powerman and Iron Fist together. So this, I think more so, it's not as far as necessarily talent or the hot artists. At this point, it seemed if you had some buzz going on, it had to be monthly. And you can see that up until, still to this day, like with Walking Dead, like the monthly status of it really took it to the next height. But,
I thought you were gonna say like Tom King
well, that's a hot talent. I'm saying Walking Dead had nobody hot on it. That's the last real phenomenon of a book that got numbers with nobody's on it. No, now he's a big somebody. He's bigger than he's
one of the biggest out there, bro. He's doing Netflix shows. You know what I'm trying to say?
He's bigger than any one of these people we named at Marvel just now. He's possibly bigger than X-Men, as big as it is. No, more people on the street know who Robert Kirkman is in comparison to John Byrne, who did all these classic comic books. So we got 70, 77 X-Men, and see, there says up there frequency issue bi-monthly, right? So now since the year before it's kind of ticking up, they are increasing the number of copies, but at the same time, the sales aren't actually moving up. We look at C. We got it. Up to the following date, it's like 283,000, and then if we look at those same numbers in C, the circulation, it's only up a little, but it's not matching up to the closest filing date. That's well under, and this would be around the time where Byrne was joining the book. So we're gonna get to see if at this point
the Byrne bump. Call it what it is, the Byrne bump.
Oh my goodness, I needed that one. Now they've gone 78 and they're going to 12 issues, right? Did I go too far? Of course I went too far. So we have
It looks like it dropped.
82, right? And then we got this, and it's looking desperate for, but this is proceeding. It's still proceeding, so we're not sure where we're at yet, but we're gonna see. It's looking pretty bad for the X-Men. So ultimately, the proof that it's selling is not there yet. The print runs is pretty high, and it's even lower. So that's
it could be two things. It could be that Marvel didn't have confidence to make a bigger run, or it could be, or to push it, or it could be that fans just are not gravitating to the stores that they're making right then and there, or they just don't know what the changes that are coming through.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what Byrne was saying, that they were always teetering from around cancellation, and this looks like they're well below it. So then what looks like at this point, they're giving the X-Men a chance. Before we get to there, we're seeing a drastic jump, right? We're in 79, 12 issues, right? What's
70? Oh, 79 now.
Yeah, 79. We're in 79 now. Shooter's involved. He's up there. And then what? The print run is going up. It's 327,000.
Gotta pick it.
Then we go down to C. We don't have a C, so we have to go to the E. It's doing a little better. Look at that. It's not as good as the other title, but we have 171,000. That we're doing a little better. Are we hitting? Yeah, we're hitting past our, because double that would be, it would be a little over that. So both numbers, I think the up to filing date is a little close to this. Let's be 32. It'll be like 32. So yes, a little bit over. Maybe in both columns, maybe 10,000 over if you double it. So we're looking good. We're not at, I don't think we're at Iron Man yet, but we're we're doing a little better. We're seeing the great Byrne bubble, as Mars just said, and it's not really that big, but it's getting there. So we're in 1980, and I think at this point, was I don't know. No, I don't think I was buying my own books at this point. I'm still too young. And in
Wow.
there, the print run is going up again. Look at that. And then we look at the actual issues; those are going up. We got from 345,000, and then the actual just total distribution. We have a C here. We have a C. So then we go to 191,000. So that's almost, yeah, that's pretty good. And up to filing date is going up a little more. So it's not astronomically, huh?
But it's way better than the year before, and definitely better.
It's definitely starting to pick up. It's not. We already looked at Spider-Man, and we looked at the Hulk and the Fantastic Four, and it's not anywhere near that. It's still in the Iron Man realm. And don't front on Iron Man. He's going to become a big star at some point. 81, 12 issues. We have to get through this quicker so I don't get kicked out by Mars. Look at the print run. Now Byrne is about to leave this year, and Dave Cockrum is joining the book. The print run is going up. It's over 400,000. But the actual sales are well above that. It's like 260,000, and then up to filing date, it's almost at 300,000.
300,000. Wow.
Now in this year, they said that when Cockrum got back on the book, the sales bumped up. So it's like, okay, like they're not going to be hurt by Byrne leaving. The book is still selling. They're worried about that, but they're like, oh, this book has a buzz to it. And then we can get in, I don't want to get into Byrne sales and stuff later because we want to concentrate on the X-Men, right? So we go to this 82. So at this point, I'm buying my own comic books. I'm a crabby X-Men fan. I'm kind of piecemeal buying it. 12 issues a year, kind of still crabby. Why are they a little bit different? Look at the print run now. This is during Cockrum's run, and it's 500,000 circulation. And then at the same time, the numbers are well above that. It's over 300,000 in the C column. And then it's up to filing date, it's at 326,000. The book is just a juggernaut at this point, and it's catching up. It's past the Iron Man, past those Fantastic Four numbers. I don't want to get to the Fantastic Four numbers from this time, but at the same time, we looked at Spider-Man when Spider-Man was really rolling in the 80s, because we could look at those other books and they might have dipped. We want to stay where the books weren't necessarily about creators and whatnot. At this point, it's still Dave Cockrum on the book. There's a couple other artists, but it's still not basically, people are buying it for the X-Men. That looks good. We're going to 83. Before you look, don't look at those damn numbers. Don't look at them yet. Excuse my French. 1983, right? We go down. The numbers are going crazy. Like, this is well up to where the Hulk and Spider-Man
gotta pick it out.
And then when we get to the C column, look, it still surpasses, like, almost what is it? If you double it, it's
double, almost triple, because there was one point it was 113. Now it's 346. So that's impressive.
Yep. So,
but are you relaying that to Byrne, because the numbers are low when Byrne is?
No, I'm saying at this point, the book, Byrne is well off the book. And if you can say nostalgia of what they did, or nostalgia from the books, the issues that Cockrum did before Byrne, ultimately the book is just a success. I think Byrne calls it that Claremont was doing everything Byrne said no to. So he's like, obviously I was holding him back because look at the sales of the book. It's like it's blowing up. So,
Yeah.
and you see, they didn't, that's the thing. At this time, you didn't know what was going to be like The Walking Dead, like how that blew up. So let's go to 84. And then we only have one more of 85 after that. Is that?
We got to compare to what now, bro. People got to understanding what the numbers are now versus what it was then.
The numbers now are roughly in the toilet. So why do you look at that? Oh yeah, so there wasn't a statement of ownership for 84. So regretfully, we're going to have to jump to 85, and we're going to see something that all right. This is 1985. Shooter's still running the show. And
good thing or a bad thing?
Huh?
Good thing or a bad thing, Shooter running the show?
No, I mean, at this point, the thing is, Shooter was tough, but at the same time, and he kind of was tough on the creators, but at the same time, they still produce work under him. I think PostShooter, they were tougher because they would cancel and say, don't do this, don't do that. And the same reason why what the image guys left, they felt like, and they would say to them, hey, these books will sell regardless. So if you look at this, I think Paul Smith had a big bump, like they said, the 50,000 readers. But now we're here, and look at the C column. Like it is the margin between the number of issues produced and the number of issues, the circulation itself, what's been bought is like so close now. This is closer than we ever seen as far as the title, if we compare it. So the book is, but that, if we go back to those Byrne numbers, which is the ultimate test of what the book is, the book went up while Byrne was on there, but nothing like it did in the periods from 1982 to 85. And obviously we don't have the same thing about 91, which is the $8 million, that sort of book. So now looking at that, you were there to experience it with me, because I was like, I think Byrne said, look at the statement of ownership, and you look at it, and it's like, wow, the book, the jumps. I just a little more surprised at the jumps the book took. When you look at the comparison, you're like,
what Byrne's created helped to stage helped to stage a revival that there would be for the X-Men, right? Because it didn't seem as though he got tons of the credit because some of these things were happening, but the bumps were small. But right after he left, the bumps got bigger and bigger and bigger. Is that what you're?
No, I wouldn't necessarily. I don't want, because he hasn't necessarily taken the credit for it, because he said the energy was already in the book. The thing was that Dave Cockrum couldn't do a monthly title, and this is also because he was doing a lot of stuff in the office. So he had a lot of jobs or hats to do, and they gave him a office job when they took him off the X-Men. So ultimately, him getting it monthly is the most important part. The stories, yes, because they've become stuff that's been repeated over and over in many different mediums, but the energy was in those sort of titles. Before he got there, he sort of added something to it because he kind of went inside it, but at the same time, you didn't see that big jump. But with the sales of, always think of the back issue sales of Byrne's issues being the thing of people saying, I had to buy the X-Men. And that, I think, kind of helped it. I think that's his effect was when you looked at those back issues for the Death of Phoenix and the Days of Future Past, it was so high. It was like, it put the X-Men at this kind of level where people just had to buy it. So that's my opinion.
Good stories, good art, respect.
Yeah.
Okay, well, is there anything else to add?
That's it for that. We went through the statements of ownerships to prove that the X-Men was not killing from the day one. It wasn't killing, before Byrne got there. It was a book that was on the edge, and you see it start to pick up because it went monthly.
I hear that. Can't say anything much against that, but hey.
What do you mean?
Got nothing to say.
No, say it and then you can end. You can say what you
said. I saw the numbers. I saw the numbers and I was surprised. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was going to be higher for some of the X-Men, but I thought it was going to be a bigger bump for Byrne. But it's pretty interesting,
Yes. Well, thank you for doing this. We're going to be Hmm? Would you?
Sick, always good.
All right,
Always good, bro.
good. Spinner rack.
Out.